Welcome to Possibilities, the show where we give people living with a variety of different abilities and their loved ones a space to share their lives with the world. Thank you for joining us today, and here's your host, Danny Steeves.
Thank you, Randy, and welcome to today's episode of Possibilities. It's been a long time since we we filmed an episode of this show, but I'm so thrilled to be back with you, and we have a lot of interesting things coming up for you in 2021. Um, I, I might tell you a bit more on this episode, um, or maybe I'll do a commercial video later on. But on with today's episode. Today I'm gonna be joined by Anthony Frisina. Now, Anthony, I believe, is the CEO of Above and Beyond. Um, uh, Now, Above and Beyond is a podcast, and we'll get more details when Anthony joins me um, in a bit here, but I'm, I'm really anxious to hear Anthony's story and how he came to where he is today. So, um, we're gonna have an interesting uh, chat coming up on 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 media and whatever else he wants to share with us. So, um, what we'll do now is take a bit of a break and then be right back with Anthony Frisina. So stay tuned. And welcome back to Possibilities. Joining me now is Anthony Frisina. Uh, he was born with spina bifida and now does uh, quite a bit of work with Mohawk College. So I'm anxious to hear about that and a lot more. So welcome to the show, Anthony.
Thanks, Danny. Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate you having me on.
Uh, it's my pleasure. So so I wanted to start from the beginning. So you were born with spinal bifida. Is that correct?
Absolutely, yes. I was born with spina bifida, and my youth was extremely challenging to say the very least. In and out of hospitals, multiple surgeries, multiple appointments, just kind of really trying to get things stabilized with the spina bifida. And as I grew older, things really stabilized themselves until the age of 12, where prior to the surgery at the age 12, I was walking at the time, using a cane and had limited mobility with the walker as well, and using crutches and KFOs and so on and so forth. But at that age of 12, I had a surgery in 92 with a success rate of 40%. Long story short, it left me using a wheelchair for the rest of my life, but I really wouldn't necessarily call that a failure. I would really more so call that an opportunity, an opportunity to learn a different skill set.
So, so if I understand you right, when you were born, the spina bifida didn't put you in a wheelchair. The surgery that you had put you in a wheelchair.
That's right. The surgery had a success rate of 40% at the time, but it was a surgery that was absolutely necessary to have because one way or the other, something negatively could have been impacted one way or the other. So that's being said, I went through the surgery and here we are today. And I've not only survived the surgery, but I'm thriving, and that's really the key for me.
So that is great, and that is the message I want to get out to the show. Um,
Absolutely.
now, 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 you do a lot of work with Mohawk College. Can you explain a bit
Abs-
more about that?
well, absolutely. So I'm currently a student services representative at Mohawk College.
Yeah.
I was a student there beginning in '99 and graduated in 2003, and I started working there in 2005. And I've worked different roles, and I've settled into the position of student services representative, and I really embrace that role. I have a great team that works with me, supports we support one another, and it's truly a special place to work at.
Um, yeah. So what is your role? What is your role as a student representative?
Well, as a student services representative, we're handling student inquiries on a daily basis, whether it be issues with registration, payments, continuing education, and any other general inquiries students may have for us at this time, and especially during dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic right now. Everybody's working remotely and working from home, and it's been an adjustment to say the least. But as long as everybody's staying safe, it's what we got to do.
So yeah, I wanted to ask you personally, how has the COVID-19 pandemic affect you personally?
Well, I do have services that do assist me. Those services have been declined a little bit, but at the same time, I still work within the means that I have. And in terms of the isolation, I'm a very extroverted type of person, so I like to be out in the community. I like to do a lot of volunteer initiatives. I like to give back to a community that really has given me the opportunity to be where I am. So I'm grateful for that.
Um, that is awesome. Now, I wanted to touch on something that I read on um on your website. Now I can't remember the exact quote, but it was something to the effect that it's not how you get knocked down, but how you get up again. So
Right.
can you explain what you mean by that?
Yeah, absolutely. The quote is something to the effect of, "It doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down, as long as you
Yeah,
keep getting up that one more time."
yeah,
And that's to me is one of the many quotes that I live by. Another one that's very important to me is that in life there are no problems, only solutions waiting to be found. And I think it's important that as people with disabilities, that we able to be able to dictate the quality of life that we want to live, that our activities of daily living are the way we choose to dictate them. And I mean, there's so many opportunities for people with disabilities out there, and it's just a matter of amplifying your voice to not only be listened to, but more to the effect of being heard, and a call to action for those in power to work with us so that we can all collectively prosper.
um, great, great message, and I want to touch on area that you mentioned. Um, it's it's not about um something about amplifying your voice. Now, what do you mean by that?
Amplifying your voice means speaking so passionately and proudly that the message that you're trying to convey, so that many people, after hearing it for a certain amount of time, will actually hear it and understand that people with disabilities deserve that voice in our communities, and we deserve to be have our messages heard.
And and what would your message be to someone who's looking to to have more of a voice in the community and amplifying their voice?
So essentially, Danny, I created what I call Above and Beyond, bridging the gap to accessibility and inclusion.
Yeah,
So I created that in 2016 with a TV show that's on Cable 14 here in Hamilton. Actually, the third season does debut tonight. So if people are interested in watching it online, they can go to www.cable14.com and click on the Watch Live link. Is uh, that I've become friends with, and he, along with many other people, work together within our community to amplify the voice. Amplify the voice means, if you have to ruffle a few feathers throughout the process, then so be it. Through Above and Beyond, I created the what I call the MICE principles. The MICE principles, which is MICEE, which stand for motivation, innovation, inspiration, celebration, education, and empowerment.
yeah.
And
Can you can you expand on what you mean by each one of those acronyms?
absolutely. So, motivation within anybody to help us amplify the voice. We need to keep the continuous motion. We need to work together with our allies in our community, not necessarily just the disability community, but the community at large. Because once again, it's all about a collective prosperity. So we need to continue to motivate one another toward the greater good of collective prosperity. So innovation is simply about providing innovative ways for all communities to work together to be able to be part of their communities as everybody else. Inspiration, and I know that word seems to have a little bit of a controversial um, way of thinking, but inspiration for me is simply about uh, inspiring one and all to work together. It does take a lot of vocal work. It does take a lot of hands-on work that I continue to do in the community. But inspiration means, for me, turning the light switch on to see the importance of collective prosperity. And celebration is simply that, celebrating small wins, whether it's a wheelchair swing, community, whether it's a certain ramp being installed, whether it's ways being altered, and that's just from the built environment perspective.
Yeah.
It's but and there's so much. Um, Education is simply that we need to educate one another. We need to alleviate the stereotype and stigma. We need to be cognizant of attitudinal barriers. Is it kind of puts it all together is working together for the change,
Yeah.
fundamentally, systemically, and culturally together. And stems for and what it aims.
Uh, yeah, you were cutting in and out a bit there, but I think I caught most of it. So, what, what happens when, when a, what, what kind of barriers do you face on, uh, daily basis when you're out doing your advocacy work?
Predominantly, right now, it's physical barriers such as
Right click.
stuff in the way. There's also a lot of, pardon me, there's a lot of educational barriers that we need to bring forth, and we need to bring it forth with strength and power
Yeah,
so that our message is heard
yeah,
and that our message helps us to be part of the community. In Hamilton alone, the percentage of persons with disabilities is greater than the provincial and national averages. And that speaks a lot. It's people with disabilities are more than just a niche market and deserve to have equal rights and equal opportunities like everybody else. It may look different by way of an accommodation. It may look different by way of uh, assistance at certain points, but
yeah,
that's essentially the normal that we live.
yeah. And, yeah, you hit the nail right on the head there. Um, um, but let let's say there's a a store owner who isn't isn't willing to make their store wheelchair accessible. Like, how would we how would we educate that person in in um seeing the value of disabled people for a lack of a better term?
Right, and I see what you're saying there, Danny, and I totally understand completely. I think more so is again the educational piece and instituting the fact that if a principal, for example, would aid in his school board and his trustees and whatnot, that would work together, that would install a ramp, that it would allow a person who uses a wheelchair to access that school and access that classroom independently. I mean, it's a win for everybody because at the end of the day, you're not satisfying the need of 90-ish% of the school's population. You're satisfying the 100%. And the return on investment of that could be, or it will be, invaluable.
Yeah, but I um I there are lots of businesses um out there like um um local businesses that are not wheelchair accessible. So what would you say to those people who um continue to disregard the mindset that they need a ramp in order to get into that particular business?
And I apologize, Danny, you were kind of breaking up on me there.
Uh, no problem. I I just wondered. I just wondered. Um, if if there was a store like a local business who who didn't want to make their business wheelchair accessible, how would you approach how would you approach that business owner and say, hey, we need to make more businesses wheelchair accessible?
Well, for example, if you do put a ramp within the vicinity of your business, you're allowing more traffic, which and therefore you're allowing more customers, which your return on investment becomes greater. So the
Yeah,
investment in and of itself is priceless.
yeah,
Further to that, a wheelchair ramp or a ramp, for example, also allows persons who use mobility devices to become employable, and that also will raise the economy and the thriving economy, and it just makes for better business practices for that business owner.
Uh, yeah, you bring a really good point, Anthony, and I want to get your uh, perspective on this. What would you say to business owners who who don't want to employ people with disabilities because they don't think that employing people with disabilities is a good idea. So, what would you say to those people?
Well, I think, Danny, that's part of a bigger discussion. That's the part of alleviating the stereotypes and stigmas, the attitudinal barriers that still exist within our communities. And
Yeah,
that's kind of a bigger conversation to have. I mean, whether it's in the employment industry, whether it's just in general as a whole, the stereotypes and stigmas, the attitudinal barriers people with disabilities face on a daily basis. I I have another saying that I always say, that I live my life to defeat my disability, not be defeated by it. I mean, my voice is amplified, and we need to collectively work together in amplifying the voice to see the end results. We need to work with, whether it be businesses, whether it be members of our city councils, whether it's uh, other business owners, and so on and so forth. That we need to work together, that to collectively understand that a business that is accessible, and an organization that is accessible from top to bottom, is a business that is inclusive to all, that anybody could access that business, that organization, with independence, dignity, and respect. I mean, as people, as citizens, we all deserve that.
yeah,
Oftentimes, it does get overlooked and overshadowed by a lot of assumptions-based mindsets. But until we continue to bring the platform of education, the platform of alleviating these stigmas and the attitudinal barriers, it still remains. It's it's I don't tell perfection, I celebrate progression. And
yeah.
we're progressing in the right way,
Mm.
but it needs to build the momentum.
But and I apologize if I sound like a broken record, but how how do we how do we erase those stigmas that you're um talking about?
Well, as you said, Danny, it's a challenge, and I think activists and advocates like yourself, like myself, this is not a 9 to 5 thing. This is a 24/7, 365 thing. And you just gotta continue to deliver the message. Continue to deliver the message. Continue to build an understanding of perspective of what creating access and inclusion means for your community. I mean, here in Hamilton, um, my goal is to pioneer and trailblaze so that other jurisdictions that surround us can look to us and say, hey, look what Hamilton is doing. And then we follow suit that way. 2025, there is a mandate for Ontario to be fully accessible.
Yeah,
And then in 2021, we've also been mandated to have company and organizational websites to be fully accessible.
yeah. Do do you think we'll get there by the year 2025?
We're in 2021, and I'll admit it, Danny, we are behind,
Yeah,
but there's a lot of work to be done, and I'm hopeful that we can get to 2025 by being fully accessible. We just have to continue. It's the concept. I know it's a broken record, and I know I'm repeating myself, but it's simply about working together. It's
yeah,
not just the disability community; it's the able-bodied community. It's the communities at large, hearing one another, respecting one another. making change for the better, whether it's fundamentally, systemically, or culturally.
yeah,
This all ties into a fully accessible and fully inclusive world.
yeah. So so switching gears a little bit.
Sure.
Um, tell me tell me more tell me more about above and beyond and the work that you're doing there.
Yeah, so again, Above and Beyond started as a local cable television show, and it
Mm,
continues to be so. Again, season 3 debuts tonight on cable14.com. I do encourage your listeners and viewers to watch it. It's erasing the stereotypes and the stigmas here in Hamilton and across the province, locally, provincially, um, nationally, and worldwide. For me, Above and Beyond started with that show, and it stems from actions in my community, whether it's taking part in an event, creating opportunities for other, working with our youth, because again, part of Above and Beyond is about leaving a legacy for the next generation to live in an inclusive world because of the work that we're doing now.
yeah.
And so, I mean, one of the things that I do is I volunteer with kids from the Ron Joyce Children's Health Center as cheerleaders. So we've performed at Tiger Cats games, Hamilton Honey Badger games, and we got that out there. And it gets the important thing is representation. People with disabilities um, are stigma to be presented in a lower isolated area, but we need to continue to get out there and do what we can do and show the community what we can do before there is perception as to what we can't.
Yeah. So so if above it if above and beyond uh a talk show or what is your goal with that show?
Well,
Um
the show this season is talking out loud about as people with disabilities living through the COVID-19 pandemic and how it's affecting us by way of whether it be isolation, by way of services, by way of a multitude of things. So that discussion is about that, but it's also about advocacy. People amplifying voices together so that others can come and work with us, and we build allyships. We're stronger together, and we need to work together to create that end goal of a collective prosperity. I also actually, Danny, um, wrote my first book. So again, it's self-titled Above and Beyond. So it's really about my journey to where I was as a kid, growing up, the ups and downs and everything in between, and again talking about amplifying the voice and not being satisfied by living in a community where things are dictated for us, whereas um, we dictate our own lives and our own needs.
yeah. Now I know you're short on time, but there's a few more areas that I want to um get your opinion on.
Please do.
And um um what what is your opinion on the representation of people in the disability people in the media?
I apologize, Danny. I didn't quite get the question.
Do we do, does does Hollywood or any other media portray um portray disabilities as well as they should?
Well, at the same time, Danny, I think we're growing in that. And I think media's and actors and actresses are getting it. Like that people with disabilities in a movie, whether it be or a sitcom, should be portrayed by a person with a disability.
yeah,
It's often overlooked and overshadowed by, okay, well, this person has a disability. Well, we'll just use this actor who is able-bodied to portray a actor who uses a wheelchair.
yeah.
Does use a wheelchair for of that role.
What you were cutting out of it there. So, what role were you talking about?
For a genuine and authenticity of that role, for
Mm,
a person with a disability in a whether it be a movie or a sitcom or
yeah,
a video or a PSA that's related to a person with a disability, whether it be visible, invisible, or invisible,
yeah,
actually be portrayed
yeah.
those
I
characteristics.
I agree. Yeah. And I think that Hollywood has has done a poor job over the years of hiring um, able-bodied persons in roles that require people with disabilities. When you and I both know that there are a ton of actors who are jumping at the chance uh, uh, to to show off their craft. So, what would your message be to those TV studios or anyone in media?
Simply do your research. There are, as you said, a lot of people with disabilities, whether it be visible or invisible, that that have the correct skills in their toolbox to play particular roles that you satisfy those roles, and diligent and forthright in finding somebody with that. And as I said, at the end, it produces authenticity, it produces genuinity, and produces a better film. If I'm honest with you,
Yeah. Um, but a lot of those, but a lot of those casting directors are not satisfied of hiring people with disabilities because they worry that they're not gonna get the scene right. So, what would your message be there?
I think it's once again doing research. A lot of people with disabilities have a lower level of absenteeism than able-bodied members of the community, and that's just a stat that's out there to be understood. Uh, following proper understanding and understanding that you need sometimes you do need to be more patient with people with disabilities, but in order to convey the message that you want to convey in your film, in your show, and so on, see right through it otherwise.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Um, and I I am sick of it. So um, what um, moving on to my final topic here. What have you been doing with the Rick Hansen Foundation?
Great. I started 7 after going to the Rick Hansen at Shadok Hospital in our area.
Yeah,
From 2007, I was part of the organizing committee for the Wheels in Motion event, with 2011 culminating in the 25th anniversary of Rick's Man in Motion tour, where he spanned the world over 26 months, 34 countries, and 40,000 kilometers to promote the importance of access and inclusion and what it means to be accessible and what it means to be inclusive. So I was part of the difference makers that did the Canadian leg for approximately a year. But our day was just for a particular day. But I wheeled the same route that he did as part of the anniversary.
Yeah.
And I continue to be a spokesperson. I continue to be a ambassador.
Yeah.
I speak at many schools. I like to talk to kids a lot because I like to, again, it's about leaving a legacy. It's about leaving hope and more so um, a part of a future that is continues to be more accessible and more inclusive.
Yeah.
It's it's not something that's going to happen overnight. It does take a lot of diligence. It does take a lot of um, support from one another. It does take a lot of support from
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
allies, your friends, your families,
Yeah.
people that you meet throughout your life. Once they understand the role, they really understand you, and that's really what I'm fortunate enough to be here. Having the allies that I do, the relationships that I do. I mean, I was just named to a prestigious club as a member of the Order of Hamilton this past January. So
Oh,
I was truly
oh, congratulations.
thank you very much. And so only 20 Hamiltonians have this award to them, and it's not a validation, but more so a continuous ambition to continue to drive me to do what I do. You know, you,
Congrat- yeah, congratulations.
thank you, appreciate that.
Um, okay, um, what, and I want to, um, ask you, when you do a lot of public speaking, what,
Hmm.
what has, what has been the reaction from kids about trying to, what your message is to
It's
those kids.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the message is positive. When a lot of organizations have me come down, or if I could do a speaking event through Above and Beyond,
Yeah.
I'm speaking to kids, I'm speaking to their adults, to teachers, and kids are learning, kids are growing. I mean, I was fortunate enough to meet a man when I was 8 years old named John Spatazzo through the Catholic Youth Organization, and I was at a camp. That was the first time outside of my friends and family that I was taking that quote unquote leap of faith. And meeting John really started me on this path at 8 years old. And we're still friends to this day. In 2011, I believe, no, I'm sorry, it was 2013. 2013, we launched and opened up Ontario's first fully accessible park and recreational facility in Binbrook called Maridale Park. So it is completely accessible from top to bottom. It took sponsors at the national level, the provincial level, foundations, all to come together to build this park that is truly a place that is inclusive for all.
Um, that is awesome. Um, okay, we're running a bit short on time here, but I do want to get to the book. Um, what made you want to write a book in the first place?
Well, 5 years ago, I was just talking to a friend of mine,
Oh, we lost you.
I've had such a interesting life. ups, downs, and everything in between. And that I should consider writing a book. And tongue in cheek at the time. I started writing some thoughts down. I started putting things together, organizing my thoughts, and long story short, the pandemic has helped me finalize the book. It's being close to release. It's $20 plus tax, and $5 for shipping if you're looking to have it shipped to you. So in Ontario, it would come up to 27.60, but taxes depending on the area that you're in.
Yeah.
Or if you want to reach out to me, I can give you more information about who I am, what I do. My email address is info at anthonyfrisina.ca.
Uh, okay, so uh, um, thank you for joining us on the show today. For me, been, it's been a real pleasure meeting you and hearing your stories. And um, one more final question for
Sure.
you. Um, what what would your final message be to someone who is watching this right now?
My final message to people that are watching this right now is simply to continue to work together. No one can overcome this barrier alone. This is a barrier that exists locally, provincially, nationally, and worldwide. Inclusion is meant for collective prosperity, and we need to look to one another and work together, building allies so that we can all have a great life in our worlds that we live in, the way we choose to live.
Well, well, Anthony Frisina, you are doing a great job, and once again, thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely, Danny. My pleasure. Good to meet you finally.
And for those people who want to get in contact with you, what is your contact information again?
Yeah, they can reach out to me about the book or any questions to
Yeah.
book me for a speaking event. They can reach me at info at anthonyfrisina.ca.
Okay, info at anthonyfrisina.ca.
That's correct.
So thank you very much, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it, Danny. Thank you.
And and we will be right back. And we're back. That was a great conversation with Anthony Fagina. I'm sorry for the technical issues there, but I think you got a a great snapshot of what he is and um or who he is, sorry, and what he does, and um yeah, well uh so I wanted to end off today's show by by saying um just um say that welcome back to possibilities channel. So we're in a new studio now, so I'm hoping to get more content in the next few weeks or so, in the, in the next little bit here, so we'll keep you well informed um, on what is going on there, so we'll 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 have much more episodes for you, hopefully in 2021. So um uh uh but until next time, um keep the gift of a disability, and if you want to reach out to me at the show here, my email address is possibilitiesshow@gmail.com. And if you wouldn't mind, just comment down below if you have any questions or things that I can do better on the show, or send me an email like I mentioned, and I'll respond to those as quickly as I can. So again, my email is possibilitiesshow@gmail.com, and if you like this video, please consider liking it by clicking that thumbs up arrow at the bottom of the screen there, and yeah, that really helps out the video. So as as I always say, and I'll say it again, keep the gift of disability, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.